Have you ever been underestimated so badly that the only way to prove yourself was to do the impossible? This isn't a story about ego. It's about strength, grit, and a woman who carried the heart of a warrior behind a quiet smile. When they mocked her and said, "Try not to cry, princess," she didn't answer with words. She answered with power. By the time it was over, 7 Marines were on the ground, outsmarted, outmatched, and outfought by the ranger within her. Before we begin, make sure you hit subscribe to Grow for Justice, the home of stories that honor courage, resilience, and truth. And as you watch, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love seeing our community from every corner of the world. The air at Fort Maxwell was hot enough to burn through boots that morning. Recruits stood lined up on the dusty field, sweat streaming down their necks as the instructor barked orders. Among them was Lena Hart, the only woman in her training group. She wasn't tall or loud, and that's exactly why most of them ignored her until the test began. Lena had already served 2 tours as a combat medic, saving lives under fire, but now she wanted more. She had applied for the Elite Ranger Assessment, the same course that had broken men twice her size. When her name appeared on the roster, whispers started before the first day even began. "Ranger School's no place for a princess," one Marine smirked. Another added, "Try not to cry, sweetheart. We'll carry your pack when you quit." Lena didn't respond. She just tightened the straps of her gear and stared straight ahead. The sun glinted off her dog tags like a silent promise. She hadn't come here to prove she was equal. She'd come to prove she was better. The first week was brutal. Endless runs through mud, low-crawl courses that shredded elbows, sleep deprivation, and drills that pushed bodies to collapse. By the third night, 2 men had already quit. Lena's knuckles bled from climbing rope, but she never slowed down. She had a trick. Her father, a retired ranger himself, had trained her since childhood, teaching her how to use pain as a compass, not a cage. Still, the jokes continued. "Careful, princess, your mascara's melting. You'll break a nail before you break a record." But one Marine, Staff Sergeant Cole, took it further. He made her his target. Every mistake, every second she fell behind, he mocked. During a hand-to-hand drill, he whispered, "You don't belong here." That's when something behind her eyes changed. Why the time the instructors announced the Ranger Combat Evaluation, tensions had boiled over. It was a controlled sparring test, 7 Marines, one by one, against a single opponent. The exercise was meant to test endurance, not dominance. But for Lena, it was more than that. It was the moment she had been waiting for. The crowd of trainees gathered around the ring, laughing, betting quietly on who would drop her first. The instructor called her name. "Hart, you're up. Try not to cry, princess." The phrase sliced through her nerves like a spark through dry grass. She stepped into the circle, shoulders squared, eyes focused. Round 1. The first Marine charged, taller and heavier, expecting to overpower her. But Lena didn't back up. She pivoted, sidestepped, and slammed her elbow into his ribs, twisting him down with precision. He hit the dirt, gasping, the crowd falling silent for the first time. Round 2, another came forward. He swung wild. She ducked, swept his legs, and locked his arm before he could blink. Tap out. 2 down. Round 3, the third, tried brute force, grabbing her from behind. She remembered her father's voice. "Use their weight, not your strength." She shifted, dropped, rolled, and he flipped clean over her shoulder. The instructor's whistle pierced the AIR.BY now. No one was laughing. Round 4. Cole stepped in, cracking his neck, smirking. "You think you're tough, huh?" he taunted. Lena just raised her fists. He came at her hard, years of arrogance behind every punch. She absorbed one blow to the shoulder, twisted left, and caught him with a strike to the throat. Not enough to injure, but enough to end the fight. Round 5, 6, 7. They kept coming, one by one. And one by one, she took them down, fast, efficient, controlled. No rage, no shouting, just discipline and fire. When the last Marine hit the dirt, the field was silent except for the sound of her breathing. The instructor broke the silence. Ranger Candidate Hart, you just broke the course record. Applause erupted. Not mockery this time, but respect. Even Cole, the loudest skeptic, stood at attention and saluted. Lena nodded slightly, chest heaving. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just said quietly, "Next time, don't call anyone princess." That night, word of her fight spread through the entire base. The video from the training camp went viral within hours among military circles. For the first time in years, recruits started referring to her not as princess, but as the Ranger Queen. Days turned into weeks. The training didn't get easier, but the attitude around her did. When someone struggled, Lena was the first to help them up. When others fell behind, she carried their packs. She wasn't there to prove women were strong. She was there to remind everyone that respect is earned through resilience, not rank or gender. During the final phase, a storm swept across the mountains. Recruits were tasked to navigate a 40-mile night march through knee-deep mud. Temperatures dropped, visibility vanished. One squad lost radio contact, trapped near the ridge. Lena heard the distress call, grabbed her gear, and without waiting for orders, went after them. For 6 hours, she climbed through freezing rain, using only compass bearings and her instincts. She found the missing team huddled near a cliff, one Marine hypothermic, another injured. She dragged them both down the mountain, refusing to stop even as her legs shook. When they finally reached camp, the commander said, "That's not protocol, Hart. You could have been killed." She replied, "Sir, I wasn't going to let anyone die while I waited for permission." Graduation day arrived with the same heat that had welcomed her months earlier. Only 12 candidates remained out of 40. When the commander called her name, the audience of officers, Marines, and soldiers stood. She was the first woman in that program's history to complete it with a perfect combat score. AS. She stood at attention. Cole, now one of her biggest supporters, handed her the Ranger tab. He whispered, "You didn't just earn this. You changed this place." Months later, Lena was assigned to a joint task force overseas. Her reputation followed her. Stories of the princess who took down 7 Marines. But to her, it wasn't about that moment in the ring. It was about the hundreds of moments afterward, teaching, leading, saving lives. When a journalist later asked her what drove her, she said, "I never wanted to fight anyone. I just wanted to stop being told what I couldn't do." Once you stop listening to limits, everything changes. And that, my friends, is the story of Lena Hart, the woman who walked into Ranger training to prove nothing and walked out as a legend. So the next time someone underestimates you, remember her story. You don't need to shout your strength. Just show it when it matters. That if this story gave you chills, make sure to subscribe to Grow for Justice, where we bring you stories that celebrate real courage and resilience. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, your country, your city, your story. Because somewhere out there, someone like Lena is waiting to be inspired by you.